Shout out to Casual Economist. Glad everybody could join me today. Switching it up, gonna try to get our lunch and learn on. I probably should have published that a while ago. I just put it out there last night. So again, you know how we do it. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see. That's the risk assessment. A lot of people ask me about risk assessment, vendor assessment. So it's going to kind of roll into that vein, kind of keep on that line. Something I enjoy doing too. I can kind of do that in my sleep. So, Regine in the house. Glad you could join me. Jeffrey Johnson. Glad you could join me. Justin Williams. You know how we do it. If you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, put them in chat. I think most people know me in here. I am PBO. I've been in the game forever. 35 plus years in tech, 15 plus in cybersecurity. Really kind of winding down my career, to be honest. So trying to figure out kind of my next steps, what I want to do. Shout out to Struggle Security. He went to that senior VP route. That never quite excited me, to be honest. But as I get a little older, it's kind of a mistake because then, you can pick your team, help people out, hire and fire people. So when you're at those levels, you can make those moves. So once again, we're going to get at it. You saw the title. We're going to look at Marketplace for AWS because what they are doing or trying to do is putting risk assessment and vendor assessment inside their marketplace. So whenever you buy something out their marketplace, they already ask mostly the security questions you're going to ask. They're doing a lot of that preliminary work for you that you won't need to do, which I think is kind of cool. They have a plethora of cybersecurity people who can do that. Give me one quick second. One of the grandbabies, I got to send them some money. They're like, PBO, we need a cash app ASAP. Got to help the grandbabies. So give me 1 second. We're going to get going. Once again, hit on that vendor assessment. Make all that happen. So once again, part of risk assessment, any software coming into your organization, you should review. If you don't, you're really considered to be negligent, right? You need to at least do a risk assessment on anything, especially in the federal space. You have to make those, make that type of move. So once again, put any questions in the chat and we're going to get started. As soon as I hit this button, PBO need glasses. He getting up there. Trying to do it ASAP. You see it? Back on that risk assessment. I think that's probably one of my favorite in this categories. You see it right there. Rising costs in a fast-growing market. Third-party software selection, price, and investments. There are 10,000 plus software vendors in the United States and growing. I always forget that. Everybody's trying to get that software money, course money. So everything is in the cloud. Everything is SaaS. You don't have to install anything. So 13% growth in software spending. I can see that compared to 4.3 year-over-year increase, 10 to 20%. Software is it, right? Everybody's got software on their phone. Everybody's joining, the cloud vendor to do payroll assessments. Everything's once again in the cloud. So once again, that's why we got to do the reviews of that software, right? Because it's definitely a high level threat. This is what we really do. Outdated digital supply chain. Select your trusted vendor, perform your security and risk assessment, form contract and negotiation and sign a contract. So a lot of times you're working with legal and procurement there, the software and risk, and part of that that's actually carving out its own section. Shout out to the white. Privacy is becoming huge because when I worked for the Fortune 500 company, we had GDPR, CCPA, we had European customers, customers in Brazil, customers in Canada. They were all different type of customers. So so once again, once you get national, it really gets crazy. So once again, how do you review that software? Make sure it's safe for your organization. Make sure it's the level of security. A lot of people know I do IRS work. That's a different level of security in PII, right? HIPAA and high trust is going to be a little higher than IRS. Then if you're talking about national security, nuclear codes, right? That's life and death, right? That's going to be security high. So that's going to be a different level of security. So what level of security does your software you're reviewing needs to be in? What data touches other data? Is your network zero trust where it's segments? So you can have this subnet HIPAA, this subnet IRS, this subnet's PII because it's separated the way it's supposed to be. So those are some of the things when you get in a senior role to kind of think about. And a lot of times, shout out to my man, your third auditor is going to think it for you, right? Because those are the questions your third party auditors are going to be asked, right? If you're doing federal work, sooner or later they're going to come and review your paperwork and maybe come in and scan your hardware, right? When I worked for the state, the IRS came in every 3 years physically, did the scans of the network, Nexus, actually looked at some of the closets. Right, we had a lot of it in AWS, so they couldn't do that, but they want to see, your shared responsibility and what that looks like. So once again, if you look at that, this select your vendor, assess it. Vendors hated me, man. I used to be going in on them, right? So security and risk now, privacy's in there. Working with, I'm trying to set up to interview a lawyer. They're kind of touchy about that. So what does that give and take between security and legal looks like? Right, the transaction match the PBO invoice and allocate your costs, monitor your spending, and renew. Increase the visibility time you're renewing. Right? Do you have caps on your renewal? Like I work for big companies. Once they sign a contract, you can't increase your fees on a contract more than 5% per year. Right? So, what kind of procurement and legal reviews do you have on your software? Let's see what my man Grace said. Currently an operational manager, nonprofit organization looking to transition. And okay. How can I will be graduating degree in IT? I think you're doing everything right. What I probably would, if you have local groups in your area, as a kid say, I would touch grass and go to some of your local groups. The last job I had before this one is I met the CISO on a local security group. IC Square security group in the larger cities that have local groups. So I met those. Do projects. A lot of times, if you can show people projects, like now the new thing is GRC engineering, meaning you might do a LexisNexis or Qualys scans, get your findings, work through those findings with your different teams, show policies you created. Because a lot of times when you do GRC, it's usually for a company that has a federal or state requirement. Most smaller companies just don't have GRC. Like most of the last 5 companies I work for, they reported to the IRS or they were doing software that needed IRS approval. Right. So I would kind of figure out, are you going to do the Fed space, state space? I will pick a compliance. Everybody know I'm a NIST 800 guy. That's pretty heavy. You could do NIST CSF. You could do ISO's hot. I see a lot of ISO. I'm not a big ISO. And I think it's weird. ISO is really picking up steam in the United States. Part of that is privacy. So if you're doing this, I try to get familiar with CCPA because that's California. New York DFR is the financial privacy checks. So just kind of pinpoint on which part, because GRC is a big domain. Kind of which part do you want to target in on that? Let me know if that answers your question, Greg. And we can send you to study GRC. They actually have a chat with their mafia, so you can actually chat with somebody if you want to actually have a conversation and have somebody drill down. I'm the tier 2 of that. If you need me, just ping me. Regime's out there, so a lot of people out in here is from that team. So once again, let me know if that answers your questions, Greg. But once again, this is I wouldn't call it outdated. This is the current chain, right? Select your software. And a lot of times, big companies, we had requests for proposals, requests for information, meaning multiple companies are going to bid for that work. You grade them, then you have like 3 of them you let do an oral presentation. Then PBO gets to grill them, right? Then you pick your vendor. Once again, part of that is what are your security checks? The big thing really is operational, right? The business says, we want these 20 things. Security said, we need these 5 things so they don't get hacked, right? So really all of that works together in that particular family. Let's keep rolling. Issues in digital supply chain, weakness in third-party software, $2.4 trillion. Estimates the poor quality of software costing United States business. You see at the bottom, there was a report from CAIQ, December 15, 2022. Right? You see due to cybersecurity failures, data breaches, operational failures, legacy systems, and unsuccessful development projects. Right? So that's why, as part of your assessment, all right, for me, security is it, but operationally, can you do it? Legacy, are you sucking that out? Are you going to do some integration points? Are they doing some new API? You doing mainframe and you can get them to talk, right? So those are all the kind of things, especially when you're doing a large project. Like I was on a $70 million IRS system, right? So when they get implemented, part of that was security, right? Part of that was they had some legacy technology that they wanted to upscale and put them on-prem. Then the next step was put it in the cloud, right? Because a lot of people don't want to handle that infrastructure anymore. So does that work best for your company? And a lot of times people don't think about that. Availability is part of cybersecurity. If it doesn't work or do slow, right, that's availability. That is a tenet in cybersecurity. So see if there's any questions. Oh, that's cool. Look up New York DFS. That's real big. Once again, when I worked for the big Fortune 500 company, they did a lot of financial information, and New York sets the trend for that. So yeah, look up NYDFS. I think I did a video on that too. Of course, I got a video on everything. But once again, AWS is trying to streamline your software supply chain. You get 15,000 plus transactional listings. 4,000 sellers, 300 plus data providers, channel partners, active subscriptions deployed in 30 regions, 70 categories, and 300,000 active customers. Right. So AWS is the 800-pound gorilla right now. I do believe Azure is going to pass them in the near future, but they're still always going to have a big slice of the pie. Let me see what my man, I don't know, Scale, Sergey, I'll miss his name. Any recommendations for doing contracting / consulting work in the GRC space? Because I'm guessing for sure saving companies a lot of money if they were spending on contracting work for IRT. That's a weird space, especially if you're trying to do it solo. The reason why is a lot of larger companies do that. So they actually want to be safe and go with larger vendors. I used to make side money. If you go to upworks.com, you can actually bid on GRC work, getting your name out there, meeting the smaller vendors because they need help. And a lot of times, well, not in this regime, and the previous regimes, they would cut small businesses, small vendors, women-owned vendors. They would give them some slices of federal contracts. So I used to try to assist them in getting work. A lot of times they hire contractors to really train a GRC team. And it's weird a lot of times when I worked on big contracts, the state and the Fed, they have FTE money, full-time equivalent, full-time employment and contractor money. And it's weird. They never mix those buckets. So they can say, well, you can hire contractors and this and that to help expedite your project and speed it up. But then once that's done, sometimes they don't give that extra money for full-time equivalent. So it's kind of weird how that works. Then sometimes, FTEs, they're hired contractors once again to get them trained up. That's kind of what I did during my career. So that means usually if you do that type of work, you get maybe 2 or 3 years. And a lot of times that's coming for companies that have a historical track record. So if you're trying to freelance, I would start on Upworks and those type sites. The problem is, man, you be bidding on against people around the world. The other kind of benefit, and I guess differentiation, a lot of times in the United States, if they're doing federal work, they got to hire that work to be done in the United States, right? And a lot of times you have to be a United States citizen to do that type of work or have a certain green card. A lot of times, especially smaller companies that's trying to get in that work, a lot of times they try to be safe and hire American work. So that's one way. And two is GRC, like again, are you doing vulnerability scans? Are you doing compliance? I do a lot of internal auditing. Once again, this 800-53 and IRS Pub 1075 is kind of my specialty. That's kind of what I do to differentiate myself. But I would start on Upworks, going to your local user group for UN grade, just kind of meeting people and putting that out there. What people hate to do and what I suck at is writing policies and procedures. People hate to do that. So if that's something you can probably lift off people play. Now I can cheat. I can let ChatGPT do it for me. So, but let me know if that answers your question. PBO tired on a Friday and rambling. Let me know. Let's see. Let's keep rolling. But once again, I think AWS is trying to become a middleman and do that type of work for you, which I think is interesting. I think I like it. So I think I like it. This is part of the thing. They have 125 compliance controls grouped into 10 categories. And we're going to look at some of those categories and some of those questions that they're going to ask the vendors. Access management, application security, data security and privacy, infrastructure security, HR, end users, dev of device and mobile, risk and IR, incident response, business resilience, audit compliance and security policies, security and config policies. Each control has a status evidence timestamp. Amazon Web Service Inc. Once again, is running it. A product overview plus the tab for controls and artifacts. The artifacts such as SOC 2, hopefully SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 2701. I'm a NIST FISMA guy. There's certification for that. IRS Pub 1075 certification. So those are the certifications I would want my vendor to go through, right? So those are the questions AWS has asked those vendors. What certifications do you have? And these are the certifications we want you to get. Vendor insight is it, and we'll look at a couple of screenshots of it. You have to sign an NDA, so I couldn't print out too much. PBO don't want to get sued. You know I do have a lawyer. I'm about that life. Vendor insight compiles 3 evidence sources into one view. The seller has a self-assessment, the CAIQ. Audit report and certification. Once again, we were talking about that. SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 21001. NIST FISMA. There's a ton of them out there. Live and automated evidence from the seller's AWS account. Continuously refresh with AWS config. So part of this is continuous monitor. Since they have their infrastructure and software inside AWS, AWS config continuously monitors to say, okay, you're in the S3 bucket. Is it encrypted right? Is it at FIPS 140-2 or 3 if you do government work? If somebody takes that type of encryption off, that will have a red mark, and you can view that inside their artifacts. And we'll look at a screenshot of that. Notes, a subset of controls are powered directly by live evidence for production accounts. AWS calls out that set explicitly. Right, so once again, they have some stuff running in production, and they say these are controls. The rest of them are self-assessed. All right. a lot of times you don't want to run too heavy of a scan while you're running because you could affect their production. So they saying these are the things we explicitly checking, and they're on our continuous monitoring list. Once again, I think AWS. Shout out to my man Jim Moore wants to take that off your plate. I appreciate that. I should have went. I should have plugged the week to give people time. I think this is gonna be my normal lunch and learn slot for risk assessment, threat assessment, and anything vendor review. So I think I'm trying to settle on this spot. Shout out to Study GRC. They're moving everything to Monday. So I always kind of like the lunch and learn. Let's see. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. I usually tap in with if you go out to Discord, it's called Study GRC. That's who they got a YouTube channel. That's who I usually tap in with. Because they got the Discord, they got the channel, they do mock interviews, they kind of set up the infrastructure. It makes it for easy to me. I could just show up for them. So Study GRC. I'll throw the link in there. Gail, give me a second. So that's kind of who I usually. Then I'm trying to think of Dr. Ozier. I can't even think. Dr. Ozier, he has the big GRC YouTube channel. He got the courses. Simply GRC. Simply Cyber. Man, I'm struck. Simply Cyber. Dr. Ozier. I kind of follow those two. PBO is struggling today. Let's keep going. Once again, if y'all got any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to drop the link in a minute. If you want to come on up, we can make that happen. How buyers access it, what you can do. Find the profiles in the marketplace. Filters on the listing with vendor's insight. Open the product and click view assessment. Request it. You must sign an NDA. I put that in red. Right? Certain things you can't disclose of their software. So they probably want to make sure you legitimate buyer that could buy, they want to buy their software and not wasting their time, which is understandable. Open the dashboard, browse the categories. I got some screenshots of that and what that looks like. Monitor, subscribe to the product security profile to get notification when postures change. There are no change for buyers to view and subscribe to it. So that was a cool thing about it too. So curated catalog. Software data, professional service, ML products. Everybody's doing machine learning and artificial intelligence. Granular certification filters. We talked about this. SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 2701, GDPR, heavy lift. My favorite, FedRAMP, PCI DSS. Shout out to my man Jaime doing the credit card security. And HIPAA and high trust, right? We got to get our health. So you select it. So if you come in, PBO should have did a better screenshot. You see it, Fortinet. The type right there is the categories. Then on top of that, you can drill down what they said in Vendor's Insight. Some of those, once again, you can get a free trial. You can spin it up and just hook into it and use it for so many days and what it would look like. Like I said, we select what we wanted to see. Transactable listing with configurable licensing terms. Offers may be extended by channel partners through resellers. End user license agreements is huge. So what are you signing up for? The cool thing is, I think AWS, because they're so big in their platform, they kind of pushing everybody kind of, like they said, a standard end user license so they don't get too crazy. Purchase order, so you can enter at the subscription time. Private offers to negotiate terms and pricing. Because when I worked for the big company, they were spending so much money they could negotiate some of their terms. Like I think we were talking to AWS one time. They want you to spend $3 or $5 million to negotiate terms, right? So they want you to be at a certain level. But once again, AWS is trying to streamline that process, make it easier. And a lot of times people don't have mature cybersecurity and a risk assessment to ask those type of questions. So I think AWS is trying to help you out, right, with that. And two is they want the stuff that's on their marketplace to have standard terms, standard security, because they want to make sure, they're recommending a good product inside their marketplace, their infrastructure, what they're recommending. Once again, if you got any questions or whatever, This kind of continuous monitor page. You see at the top, it was an AWS Vendor Insight demo. Continuous monitoring powered by AWS Config and Audit Manager. I got a couple of videos on each one of those, kind of how they work. Notification change in the security posture. Eliminate periodic reassessment included with your AWS MarketPlace subscription, meaning they're going to do the periodic assessment. They're going to make sure, once again, if anything changes that puts their FedRAMP will put that in jeopardy, or ISO 27, they'll flag that and let you know, right? Which is kind of cool because most times stuff in the cloud, you're not privy to those switches and those configurations on the back end. You can interview them up front, but are you interviewing them every year? And let's be honest, they can tell you anything, right? And so how do you know it's configured the way they say they configure it, right? A lot of that you trust in them, but now you monitor them because if they take that encryption out, AWS is gonna flag it because it's reviewing that type of work. Like sometimes too, they can have clarifying questions. Being AWS, they have their pre-assessment. We're gonna look at some of their categories and questionnaires. Decision on if it's gonna be a light assessment, detail, or focus assessment. A lot of times too, I think if it is it just PII or there no PII, meaning there's no high-level information that we consider risky. If it's just your local restaurant address, right? Nobody cares if that gets breached. Now, if it's FedRAMP and it's where the nuclear codes are at, right? That's high level. So that'll be more focused. Clarifying question and response. Final report and recommendations. Security and privacy rider attached to the contract. So what happens if they ask for clarifying or more detailed questions? Those questions get, like you said, attached to the contract. Meaning, a lot of times, if you do a trust system and people have all these policies, procedure, plans in the trust, it tells you in the trust they can change them anytime. But if you have those plans and they're actually attached to the contract, right, especially the master service agreement contract, you can't change them, right? We both got to agree to the change because we signed that master service agreement. If you just said us in the trust center, you can change it anytime you want. Assessment and governance best practices, understanding SBOM, right? Bill of material, all right, especially in software. Is it open source? Is it cloud? What's in that software you're purchasing, all right? Because what's that big? It was a logging open source that got hacked a couple years ago. Nobody knew that piece of open source software was in probably 80% of the other software. So when it became a security hub, everybody was scrambling to patch it, right? So what is your bill of material? What's in the software you bought? So you know if it's using an API call or if it's just using, once again, some open source software. If you find out there's an issue with the open source software, you know you're using it and you know you need to patch it. Or at least you know that at least you'll let your vendor to hurry up and patch it. Understand the utilization of, we just talked about that, open source software. Use vendor insight. They have a security scorecard, due diligence, assessment tools, simplified software as a service procurement, build security terms and riders into your purchase order, AWS MarketPlace through a dedicated cloud team. So their cloud team is going to kind of do that for you. And we're always talking about cloud, software as a service. I think this is kind of risk assessment as a service, vendor assessment as a service. I think they're trying to make it easy, which I think is a good thing. And I can always add on. Shout out to my man, Struggle Security. I just gave him a shout out. He's the director doing big things. PBO Brighton should have went for the director level. It's too late for him though now. PBO trying to get out the game. Definitely go check out his YouTube channel. Check out his family. Hopefully the kids and the wife is doing great. Let's see. Once again, vendor assessment, software's assessment. AWS is trying to step in, and I think I like it, to be honest, man. They got 2,000 security people just sitting around, man. So I think it's going to help the smaller vendor and even the mid-sized vendors like me. So now when I look through it, I can focus on the 2 or 3 things that I want to focus on from my IRS or FISMA level, right? They're going to do all that low-level heavy lifting for me. for that vendor assessment and contract. I hear you struggle. I hear you, man. I hear you. PBO tired already. Let's keep going. Here's some of there. Let me drop the link if anybody wants to come up. Let's see. We're gonna look at some of their basic questionnaires. I'm gonna put the link. I was gonna do a lunch and learn on Friday. GMR just came to me. I always kind of like to do a lunch and learn. Then once Christian said they were moving off of Friday and going to Monday and more Discord, I just thought I would do that lunch and learn section on Friday. That's kind of one of my favorite sections. So I still do my my late one on Tuesday to do my lunch and learn on Friday. So here you see it set one of the access management, which is one of the bigger ones. And most companies, shout out to Struggle Security, I'm sure they send a bunch of questionnaires and they take a bunch of questionnaires. So this is kind of some of their questionnaires. And remember, I think they had 120 questions, I thought. So this is the access management, secure authentication. It shows you the control title, the control dependency. Do you require personal data other than name or email, address, and the user ID? I don't think I've ever asked that. Does the application support two-factor? Yeah, we want multi-factor, not two-factor. But if the customer's account's locked, if there are multiple failures, fail logged in. So once again, these are their 120 questions. So these are a lot of questions I would ask vendors. All right, send out the questionnaire. And two, now vendors and Struggle Security knows this is, they get tired of answering the same question 10,000 times. So a lot of times now vendors, if you're not spending a certain amount of money, they're not asking your questions. They're going to say, look at our SOC 2 type 2, right? Or really our SOC 3, because that's what they give to the public. SOC 2 type 2 is when you enter a contract and you spend some money. And so a lot of the companies are tired of your questionnaire. So AWS is like, we big, so answer our question. And once again, they will share these answers to you once you sign an NDA, once you kind of make up your mind, you're interested in buying that software, right? So they'll go through these questions. You see the sample there. Two-factor, I would like to see multi-factor, which is a step higher than two-factor. But once again, these are the questions they asking the vendor. These really are the questions you need to be asking the vendors that you're getting your software from. So I think that's kind of a hidden gem. If you're kind of hurting for some security questions, here you go. You got some questions. So let's look at a couple more security families. At the top, application security controls, security software development. If they're developing software, is development, test, and staging environment separate from production? I see people separate, and I still see people putting production data in test. So that's the question I would ask. It could be separate, and they still have production data and test and QA. So do security engineers work with the developers of security practice? Is the customer data ever used in test, development, or QA? I think that's a good question. I'm okay if you take a couple rows because you need to figure it out and test. I see people dump the whole production development, whole production database in the test. That's what I got a problem with, right? But the IRS actually lets you do it. You just got to sign something to say you're doing it. But when you do that, now you got to start treating tests like it is production. Is TLS, SSL embedded in all your web pages? Is communication that uses customer data? Are application images, snapshots backed up? I don't think I would answer that, right? Here's the audit one. We just peruse list certifications you have. You see out there SOC, ISO 2700. List additional certifications that are currently in progress, PCI. Do you have policies and procedures to ensure applicable legislative, regulatory, and contractual requirement? Yes, we uploaded that. So once again, these are part of the 120 questions they're asking their vendors that once you sign off for vendor insights and sign the NDA, you can get to answers to the questions. And cool as I'll probably put the link or attach it to the video after. This is the AWS documentation where they show you all the questions. So if you're a small company, these are the questions you need to I don't know if you want to ask her 120, but what questions should you pull out to start asking your vendors, right? To be relevant. And we talked about them continuously monitoring. So this is what it would look like. Say credential management is part of authentication authorization. 2 controls, reporting non-compliance. 5 controls. So if something is you signed and it was good, then after a while they're scanned. For some reason, somebody took some encryption off an S3 bucket, or something was supposed to go private and not on the internet. And now you connected to the internet. What would that look like, right? So those are some of the things I think. Once again, AWS MarketPlace is doing well. Oh, my man came on, man. Shout out to him.
Hey, what's good, man?
Man, just talk about a little AWS Marketplace. They're trying to help smaller
Uh-oh. I think my audio going in and out.
You got a little music in the background. Y'all jamming.
How about now? Is it still? Can you still hear?
Nah, that's good. Barely. That's cool. That's barely.
All right, for sure. No, I'm just
chime in.
Just
you want to chime in on that? I
know that you were mentioning something about the assessments, those questionnaires. So is this like a standard for the NIST 2.0? Is this something that's newer?
No, what
you just been going through? Yeah.
No, what I'm doing is, which I always go through NIST. AWS is trying to set up and be the middleman for that. So any software coming into their place, they're going to do that questionnaires between them and the company. So so you don't have to do it now, right? Because I'm sure people send you thousands and thousands of questionnaires. You're like, dude, I want to do. Let's y'all spending some money. So I think what AWS has said, let us do that between all the vendors. Then you can come once you sign an NDA with us. You can review all those questions to kind of cut that repetitive nature out and streamline. And most small companies aren't mature enough to even ask questions, to be honest. So once again, I think AWS is kind of stepping in and trying to be the middleman for that. I was calling it the software service of risk vendor assessment. Go ahead, Chad.
Well, it makes sense. No, it definitely makes sense because they don't want their software or their products to be to have the gaps because the customer isn't considering all of these things within the questionnaire. So it makes sense that they're like, okay, in order to protect our butts from the current cyber threats out there, let us add in a little more value to not just deploying our products, but also working to secure them with different vendors. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what, like you said, two is it's giving some kind, I wouldn't call it a warranty, but we doing at least some high level vendor assessment that y'all niggas doing. And two is, here's the questions. They got them in one place. You can download them. And cool, like this, they got some monitoring and stuff to see if somebody takes something off. Like you can say my database is encrypted, but they could take that off anytime. So they would scan and show you right there that there's a couple things non-compliant. So it would do continuous monitoring for you of their stuff that's in their infrastructure. So like you said,
have you evaluated some of the drift between this and maybe some of your favorite things, the STIGs, or are they pretty comparable here?
Well, I think they try to do a little both. They call it more focused, like they do PII. But if it's something like you try to sell a government and you got to be STIG compliant, they would do a more focused STIG check for you. Or the number one I think people use is the CIS. I think that's a little more lighter.
CIS
So I think so if you're doing CIS or whatever level of federal compliance you're doing, it's called focus. They would have those checks in there, and you can see the drift on it.
Okay.
So
that's what's up, man. I'm here to ride along, man. Yeah.
No, that's cool. The two is, especially, my man works for the large companies, but they give you the questions inside their documentation. So if you're a small company or small vendor, they give you 120 questions that you can ask vendors that you might use in the future if you're not that mature yet. Or I think 120, you might go out there and pick out your favorite 40. And I think I might do that in a video, say these are the 40 things you should do as a small company to review vendor software. So you want to chime in on? I think you're muted.
I was going to ask, are you doing this independently, or are you doing this as a part of your organization? Are you trying to do this?
Oh, no, independently. I do this independently. Because my organization.
No, I'm talking about like this stuff. This for small organizations. I know you keep mentioning small orgs. Yeah.
I do that, but sometimes is the money's good, but they wear you out, man. They're not mature, and you argue with people that really don't understand cyber. PBO almost 60, man. If you don't understand what you asking, I don't want to explain it to you.
Man, you be talking like you about to be 70. PBO, you still in your 50s, man. I'm about to be, man.
I'm 58,
that.
man. I'm going on 60,
That don't mean
man.
nothing. That don't mean nothing, man.
Yeah, it was, man. I was trying to jog yesterday. My niece said that was a bad idea, man.
Well, walk. Start off walking and then go to the job. That's what I've been doing, man. A couple of months back, let me tell you, a couple of months back, I haven't played basketball. I don't know how long. I haven't hooped. So my lower back, my knees, and everything was messed up. Man, I've been going like almost every day, every other day. You wouldn't see a differentiation between me and some of the young dudes I play with. It's just working back into it step by step. But yeah, I started off just being at the 3-point line and shooting. And now I'm driving, doing more. I do got to stretch though. I do have to. Once I stretch, then I'm able to get a little bit more lubricated. But before that, man, I'm telling you, yeah. Don't mean to take you off your subject. Pardon me.
No, you good. You good. Gail, I put in a link. Come back. I'm gonna put it in the description. No, I was talking about it. Actually, Gabe made me think about it. So yeah, I'm gonna put the link. If you Google it, it's out there. But yeah, I'll pull the link out and I'll put it in the description. Give me about a couple hours after the video's down. If not, my email's inside of my about page on YouTube. You can always pay me, but I'll get that out there. Like I said, I think that's just a hidden gem. And let me bring up one of those. I don't think Gabe saw it. Well, he might have saw it. So there you see it right there. List of certifications you have. That's one of my favorite ones I ask. I don't really ask which ones you have in progress. Procedures ensuring compliance. So once again, those are some of the questions as a small company you should be asking your vendor. Because a lot of times too, when vendors have trust centers, which I hate, and we did a video on that. In the trust center, they say they can change these anytime they want. But the mitigated control for that, if you're a SOC 2 Type 2, that gets reviewed every year. If you change something, you can fail your SOC 2 Type 2. So they'll validate, kind of like Gabe asked, what's that drift? I expect your SOC 2 Type 2 auditors to verify if you're at the same level you were before and actually document that drift. So that's kind of mitigating control. But once again, those are some of the questions. Once again, Gail, check back in a couple hours after the video end. I'll have the link inside the description going out to the AWS documentation with those questions out there. So put in your questions, cybersecurity tech in the box. My man Gabe is a director up there. He can definitely chime in more at the management level. PBO don't like all the meetings. He don't like all the meetings.
Man, I do a little bit of both now, man. We're starting up a new capability within our practice. So like a new OT cyber capability. So I'm doing some individual delivery, man. We in the middle of a pen test right now. Pen test, red team, firewall assessment, vulnerability assessment. So I'm doing some of the execution on that, as we speak. Yeah.
I tell you, the cool thing about that though is a lot of times is, and this, and it's just kind of now your cybersecurity. They want you to do pen tests every year to get your cybersecurity. We were talking about that in a meeting a while back, right before I took. You
said pen tests?
Pen tests, like you're doing.
Pen tests,
but the cybersecurity insurance is like, hey, you got to do a pen test every year so you can get this cybersecurity. You're trying to get 10 million. They want to make sure you secure.
It makes sense. It makes sense. It should be a precautionary. It should just be automatic that they test because the insurers want to make sure that they have an invested interest in this. So they don't want somebody to get insurance and get hacked the next day, and now they got to pay out everything. So
right. So that's part of like you said, your security program. Part of that should be pen testing. The weird thing is, when I was at DoD 20 years ago, we actually put the pen testers inside a conference room and gave them some couple low-level passwords to see if they could elevate and go east and west. Or your favorite one, try to get to the print domain and live off the land. So so that was kind of the crazy. So so it was like, I was like, we let them in the network. He said, yeah, because we got dumbass users. Somebody gonna click on something sooner or later. We got to see if we can stop them if they get in.
That's kind of like the thing, man. Assumed breach is the term that a lot of times that we use. Yeah, just assuming that, hey, okay, we can't get in from the outside. Great, that's a strength. Now put us inside the network and see what damage we can do from there, or where we can get to once we're in. Because they always say it's not a matter of if, but when it happens. And when it happens, what defense in depth do you have in place to protect your systems, your critical assets, your people from the adversaries and their damage?
You know, everybody's screaming zero trust, but what does that really mean in the real world, right? I mean, it sounds cool, but do you got your segmentation? Are you checking the health of your machine? When people log on, are you making sure they're on a proper OS, you know, that's patched before you let them in your network and all that type of stuff? But, you know, it sounds cool on the brochure, but do you have it implemented correctly? So. Once again, just kind of cap it off. AWS MarketPlace is just, I think it's a great thing. They're trying to become a middleman and do that. I wouldn't even call it a first round, maybe a second round level of vendor assessment. These sending them 120 questions. They actually have security professionals on staff that understands their infrastructure. So they're gonna ask, are you using private link, meaning are your connections stay inside their network, right? What type of key management are you doing on your EC2s, your Windows, and your Linux? Your databases, SQL Server, Oracle, are you using a proper encryption when you save data to their data blocks, right? If somebody steals a data block, is that block encrypted? When you write stuff to your backup site, or because people aren't on tapes, is that data encrypted in case somebody steals your backup data? Is it encrypted? Right? So they're going to ask those questions to make you at least at a decent level. And like Gabe brought up, is it STIG? Is it DOD? Are you doing federal work, state work? So they have different levels of assessment to make sure that level of security you're trying to do, they ask the proper question. If you look on there, they call it focus questions. So I'm trying to see if I can find the focus questions. I couldn't find those. but once again, I think now, because especially vendors are getting tired because people are sending them so many questionnaires. They're like, so AWS like, here's a questionnaire. They answered it. You can see it, right, if you sign an NDA. And anytime I deal with software, I would get an NDA. They would make me sign an NDA and send it back. So once again, I think AWS is trying to middleman that. And I think that's good. Once again, they have the expertise. It's in their infrastructure. They way more mature than 98% of the people on the planet. So once again, I think it, and like Gabe said, I think they want to make sure the software you're using is on infrastructure they're selling in their marketplace is at a certain security level too. So once again, I think that's good use of their skill set.
Hey PBO, thanks for having me, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Starting to get all these messages and everything. As soon as I hop on, man.
Happy Friday, man. All right, happy Friday.
All right. Okay.
I ain't got a little longer. Last, send a question once again. Cybersecurity, or let me find that while we talk. Cybersecurity IT. Oh, here it is. Let me see. Cyber IT. Put it in the chat. Once again, I get a lot of questions about vendor assessment and risk assessment. Gail, make sure you can click on that. That's the site. And there it shows, I think it shows the 10 categories. And inside those 10 categories, it shows the 120 questions, I believe. And I think, once again, most people are getting to the vendor assessment, getting in what questionnaires they should ask vendors. And once again, you got to do that check, or you almost consider negligent. If you download some software and you didn't do any vendor assessment or risk assessment, once again, especially if you're doing federal state work, that will be considered negligent. Gail, let me know if that link works for you. Or is it in? I feel you, Jim R. Hope everybody's having a happy Friday. Kind of winding it down. I'm tired. Kind of winding it down. Been studying a little bit as always. Kind of slowly easing into that CISP. Trying to get that done. Oh my God, I'm tired already thinking about it. But once again, shout out to Casual Economist, Regine, Jeffrey Johnson, Gray in the house, Justin Williams, Gil, my man Jim. Thanks, Struggle Security. He's a director at a medium-sized security company. Offensive threats, nuclear power, grid. That's kind of his specialty. I'm definitely gonna interview. People wants me to start interviewing people, so I gotta get my interview list. People love my interviews, but I just never got a lot of views from them. I got less views than I got, but now shout out to them. People really liked them. Let's see. Again, let me know if that link worked for you. I dropped the link one more time. Once again, I hope everybody's having a great Friday. I think people are gonna take a little break. He's been doing a little lab every day. Shout out to Dewan. I got a lab every day, so been doing a little data engineering, seeing what that looks like from a niche perspective. Data lakes, data warehouse, lake houses. That's kind of the new things. I do not NC worker. That's something I do. I'm gonna take the CISSP, the professional, not the management. I think the CISP. I don't think CISSP is the gold standard. I think it's more of a management test. But if you in upper management, supervisory role, anything in the federal government, and two, they got different levels. If you look at the 8570 certifications to do certain jobs, CISP's big in there. I actually think the CISM in there, but more people ask for the CISSP NC worker when I see it. They assume if you got the P, you can do the M, which I think is wrong. But they believe if you have P, you can do the rest of it. If you do the CISSP, the rest of it is just following in line. So. Gail might have disappeared. Let me know, Gail. If not, I'll drop it in the description. I don't know if YouTube likes us doing that sometime. Maybe I do see everybody dropping stuff in there now. But no, I'll probably do the I'm gonna do the CISP. I should have did that 20 years ago. I just been on my AWS kicks. I've been redoing my AWS certifications. They're only good for 3 years, and the ones I had were expiring. So I got a couple of those. So that's really what I've been working on in NC Worker. Doing a little more data engineering and data warehouse. I don't know why. I really like that. When I used to do it 20 years ago, security just paid more money back then, to be honest. So, once again, I'm hanging about 4 more minutes. Drop any questions up. This one is managed, the other. Yep, one is management, the other's professional. And the A is audit. They got the CSA is audit. If I do anyone, I probably do the P than the A. AI Oracle company doing AI, or is that Oracle as just in knowledge? I was an Oracle DBA. Is that Oracle company? I've been touching on AWS has the AI search, so I probably do the AI search after I do the CISP. Just to get a little more familiar. AWS is kind of my thing. So if I'm studying something, if AWS got a cert, I probably lean that way. I'm trying to become much better at the AWS cloud itself. It's coming more comfortable with it. Focusing on different things. Focusing on the security. Focusing on some of the database products they have. So just you need anything, hit me up at professorblackops@gmail.com. I'm slow reading that email. I got to do better, though. I'll be like reading it every once a week. So I got to do better. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. It kind of switched. I think data management, data engineering flows the data to the AI people. So that seemed to kind of got a little boost over the last 3 or 4 years. But once again, if you need me, you can just reach out to me. I'm out on these cyber streets. Once again, I'm usually hanging out with the Study GRC guys. Simply Cyber, Dr. Ozier, hanging out with those guys. So, but once again, you can check me out at professorblackops@gmail.com. If you go to my about page, my email's on that. I need to go check that out. I'm not familiar with that. I'm sure. Yeah, I got to get on somebody's AI in a minute. I do a lot of ChatGPT, but I'm not training it or anything similar to that. So once again, AWS has their AI practitioner. Then I think they got a machine learning associate. Then they got a machine learning specialty. So I don't know. I might dabble in one of those. I used to kind of dabble in that in college, but shit, that's about 30 years ago. So once again, I'm out. I appreciate everybody for joining me. I do a better job to get this scheduling so y'all can get notified better time. Once again, I think this is going to be my normal time. Lunch and learn on Fridays, focusing on the risk assessment, more vendor assessment, kind of drilling into that. Once again, everybody have a nice weekend. Keep grinding. This too shall pass. I'm out.